Hey everyone, this is going to be the third example game using the Defender deck. This is an awesome game. There's mistakes, there was some epic plays, there were just some good stuff all around. Let's say that much. So opening hand right here is awesome. We have Vent Sentinel in hand, which is great. The Thallid is going to be another option as far as win conditions go because of the Saproings. Much slower win condition, but it's still a win condition nonetheless. We have 4 lands in hand, 3 are forests, which is okay, and the 4th is a Terramorphic Expand, which is awesome. This means that on turn 1, you'll see here in a second, I'm going to be able to put Terramorphic down. I can then use that on my opponent's turn to fetch out a mountain, which I will do here. Now on turn 2, let's get this going, come on, faster people, things get awesome. I draw into close that real quick. Draw into an Abundant Growth. Now I'm going to be able to tap my 2 lands and put down Explore, which allows me to not only get Vent Sentinel out on turn 3, but this 1 forest that I put down can now be tapped and put down another Abundant Growth, and things are greater because off the Explorer I get the Vent Sentinel, so we're sitting pretty awesome right now, and an Evolution Charm, which is fantastic because well, he dresses it away, but it gives me the opportunity that when I play this, I said in the other videos, I like to leave the opportunity to tap it out every turn, so I will still have a turn, I would have still had a 2 mana play after leaving that 2 mana open. But that's okay because we'll still be able to at least put out the Thallid in response there. But my opponent is playing blue-black control. Duress there gets rid of the Evolution Charm. This does mean that I am definitely going to have to look out for certain things, Doomblades, stuff like that, that will target these Vent Sentinels, and I'm probably going to need an alternate win condition. As soon as you see you're playing a deck like this in blue-black control, definitely realize right away that you're probably going to need an alternative win condition, whether that be through Thallids, through attacking with the white defender creatures whose name is escaping me right now, or the Caravex torches, but just keep that in mind. You may get a couple uses out of the Sentinels, but you're not likely to keep those on the field very long. So opponent plays Ponder, passes the turn along, and now it is turn 3. And you see here, I am going to be able to get out that awesome turn 3 Vent Sentinel, which is the best you can possibly do with this deck, as far as an early Vent Sentinel. So he plays a Raven's Crime, and I said, okay, I'm going to get rid of Explore because, like I said, on the next turn, turn 5 here, if I do not draw another land, I'm going to be able to leave 2 mana open and still have 2 mana available, and I can play the Thallid. The Thallid is a better card to keep than the Explorer because even though the Explorer does draw you a card, the Thallid ups the count for the Vent Sentinel, so you definitely want to hold on to that. Unfortunately, I figure, okay, well, if he has to discard again, he's going to need to get rid of a land from his hand, but he does have a second Raven's Crime, which is a bit of a disappointment, but I decided to get rid of the second Vent Sentinel. Now, by leaving 2 mana available every turn to activate this Vent Sentinel that is on the board, that means that in order to play my second one, I need to wait until I have 6 mana available to me, so that I can tap out 4, play the second Sentinel, and still have the 2 available to tap out. Following that, having 2 Sentinels on the board, I need to have 4 mana available every turn instead of 2 in order to activate it. Now, most of the time, if you get to that point where you put out a second Vent Sentinel with 6 lands on the board, odds are that you're in a position that you can probably tap both of those when they're both out of Summoning Sickness and win the game. Usually you're in a mid to late game position and you've got it locked down at that point. But I decided to get rid of that because I will be able to leave 2 open. Like I said, that would have taken me till 6 mana, and I don't know when that was going to happen. So instead, I get rid of that and keep the Thallid. This gives me, first off, that opening for the second win condition that I talked about a second ago, and then it's going to give me the opportunity to have this mana available for this other Vent Sentinel that's already in play and already active. Keeping this land in the hand instead of discarding it, because my opponent is playing obviously a discard strategy, so when he uses something like Raven's Crime again, I want to be able to choose what I'm discarding and get rid of something that I don't need. In this case it would have been the mountain. He does play a Ravenous Rats, which is going to get rid of that anyways, but whenever I'm playing against a discard deck, I do keep things like lands in hand unless I absolutely need them. Something, for example, like a Plains. If I draw a Plains, that would go onto the field. But if I did not, if it was another land, if it was a forest or a mountain, I would probably hold on to those in order to get rid of, one of those if a Raven's Crime comes around again. So, use the Vent Sentinel there. Kind of an early turn to do that. Usually I wait till end of turn. Thalad's going to start building up counters, and again, another great play having this 2 cost on the Wall of Tanglecord. This means that, like the Thalad, I am going to be able to put that down and still have the 2 mana available to play the ability on the Vent Sentinel. Which is absolutely awesome, because now I'm going to be able to use it for 3 damage. Opponent attacks, and I think, I don't know what he's got that's going to be able to kill things, but I decide to block with Wall of Tanglecord in case that he had something, if he has something. He does actually have Agony of Demise in here, but if he has those spells that give minus X, or, just fill in the blanks, reducing your power, he is going to be able to block with, let me block and then kill one of my creatures. So, gonna block on the Wall of Tanglecord because it does have the highest defense of all of my walls, and it is the least important. These two are, order of priority. The Sentinel is your most important, then the Thalad, because of the creature generation. So he decides, I don't know what he was thinking there. I'm still thinking he had some kind of answer in his hand if I had blocked with the Vent Sentinel, but he does tap out to play Muldrifter, and I do burn him for 3 damage. So, now we draw into the Prison Barricade, and this is the one that I was looking at. This does require 2 planes in order to get this going. Thankfully, with the Abundant Growth, I can get this into play earlier. I decided here to cast it for its 2 cost. Again, 2 cost is great when you're at 4 mana with the Vent Sentinel. The thing with casting this is, because my opponent is running discard spells, he does have the opportunity. If he's at 5 land, usually that's pretty good for a blue-black control deck. He is very easily, if he tops into another basic land, he can discard it to use Raven's Crime and force me to get rid of this. So I wanted to actually get this on the board and up my count of walls as soon as I could. Having these 4 defender creatures available to me means that my Vent Sentinel is doing more damage. It's big, and it's important to be able to do that. Again, waiting till end of turn to activate the ability on the Sentinel. Tap out here at end of turn to activate this, and in response he does make a play. He is going to use Agony Wave. I'm sorry, I think I said Agony of Demise. Agony Warp is the card I meant. So he's going to give my Sentinel -3/-3. Unfortunately for him, that's not big enough. If he wants to kill it, he's going to need a second one, which he does have here. We'll see in a second. That's not terrible. I do lose my Sentinel, which sucks. But at the same time, he used 2 cards to get rid of 1 creature. That puts it at a moderate advantage for me. Also, you'll see here that when this clears the stack, it's only going to do 3. That sucks, because the trigger's on the stack, and even though there were 4 when it happened, because that 4th defender is no longer on the field, it's only going to do 3 damage to my opponent. Again, not terrible. I am running these evolution charms for the very fact that I can use those to get Vent Sentinel. That was one of the things you'll see if you watch the deck tech video. I absolutely went for those because not only do they work as land fetch, but I can use those as reanimation as well for these Vent Sentinels, which are absolutely going to be targeted every single time your opponent has a kill spell. So, getting those back is great. Having 4 in the deck and then the evolution charms is something that, adds another 3 to the count, so you can essentially say you have 7, if one gets killed. So, Wall of Tanglecord comes in. I am going to take the 3 tokens off the Thalad to get that sapling. Gonna play the Wall of Tanglecord. At this point in time, again, my opponent has the discard spells, so anything I can play, I will play in order to keep him from making me discard those. And at the same time, it's building up my count, so if I do manage to get another Sentinel into play, then I'm sitting pretty well. So, opponent decides to attack. I don't know if he forgot the fact that Tanglecord had reach, but I do simply activate the ability and block the Muldrifter here. So, taps out to play a second one, which makes it all the better that I drew into the second Tanglecord. I will have an answer for blocking both of those. Here, I said if I got a plains, it would go into play. If it was another basic land, then we would not play it. Get the plains, putting it down. We'll have absolutely the mana available to activate both walls of Tanglecord here, simply because, I'm really drawn into nothing else. I wouldn't, if I drew something like a Vent Sentinel, if I had some other play, I would not make sure that I had mana available for Tanglecords, whereas, I always make sure I have mana available for Sentinels. Difference being that I am at 18 life, and if I had to take 2 damage to a Muldrifter, it's not so bad. Opponent plays Warren Pilfers, which is great. You can get some fun interactions with the Evoke on Muldrifter, so still not worried. I have the walls available to me. The Prison Barricade would die to it, but the Thalad Shell Dweller is a 0/5. I do, however, have to be aware of any further Agony Warps that may come my way. They will allow him to kill one of my creatures after blocking. So drew an evolution charm, which is fantastic, but I got a little overzealous here, and a small misplay. I used it at this point in time to return the Vent Sentinel. What I should have done is waited until my opponent's end of turn. Right now, he knows that I have the Sentinel in hand. He can sit here and force me to discard it off the Raven's Crime if he has a card. If I use the evolution charm at the end of my opponent's phase, at the end phase of my opponent's turn, then I would be able to return this and play it, and he would have to have a kill spell. So this was definitely a misplay here. It definitely cost me big, to say the very least. So he taps out 3, plays the Rager, which draws him a card, and then uses Duress from his hand, which is a bad play on his part. I don't know what he was thinking, but Duress only forces you to discard a non-creature, non-land. He knows what the card is in my hand. He saw me use the return spell, so he wasted a spell there. I'm okay with that, but it's still going to cost me. Like I said, he does have a land to discard and use Raven's Crime, so whereas here I cost myself the Vent Sentinel, I would have had the ability to use the Evolution Charm at the end of my opponent's turn and get that back and get it into play. Would have been a much better move, would have made this game much shorter. So my opponent attacks through. I did decide, have the mana available, the Tangle Cords will block the Mulldrifters, and I did decide to block the Pilferer with the Thallid. A bit of a risk, but because he had tapped out all his black mana, I knew he would not be able to Agony Warp that and kill it, and so I'm just going to stop all the damage. So, Evolving Wilds. Now this is one, again, if it was a basic land, I would keep it, but because Evolving Wilds is not a basic land, I can use that, again, thinning out mana, trying to increase the odds that I draw a Vent Sentinel or my Torches. You can also, at this point in time, attack through with Saplings. I would only do so if he had only the rats available. Swinging a Sapling into a blocker that will kill it is not beneficial to you. Only do it perhaps if you were at a point in the game where, he left 1 blocker available and you have 2 Saplings. One's going to die, but 1 damage is going to get through, and it's not much, but every little bit of damage helps. We're not at a crazy mana base at this point in time, so even if we did draw into a Torch, we would not be able to burn him off and finish the game. So something to keep in mind, that you will, in a situation like this, encounter a point in time where you need to get every little tiny bit of damage you can through. So he attacks this time with all of his creatures. Again, because I have the mana available, I will block the Drifters with the Tangle Cord. I am again going to block the Pilferer with the Thallid. And he has his mana available, so there is always a chance that there is going to be an Agony Warp. I do decide to take the chance, and I am going to block the Phyrexian Rager with the Prison Barrier and a Sapling token. Now, at the best he can do is kill off the Sapling token, and my barrier lives, and the Rager dies. So, that's the best he can do. The worst he can do is what he actually did here, and that is misassign the damage, which means that the Prison Barrier took 2 damage, the Sapling took 0. I don't know if he wasn't aware of how to assign damage or what happened there, but he attacks, so the barricade takes 2 damage, it stays on the table, and my Sapling token lives while his Rager dies. So, definitely a misplay there. Here, gonna pass the turn because I did have the forest available, and he decided to concede at this point in time. I don't know if he realized this misplay. I don't know if he realized how long this game would continue to go on. This game, actually, honestly, if you don't get these Sentinels into play and keep those into play, then a game can take incredibly long because you do have so many abilities for blocking off of these defender creatures. You would eventually win the game because of the torches. It's kind of an is it post kind of strategy. You just stall the game until you get your win condition. Eventually you would get a Sentinel top decked, and you could put it into play, or you would get the 3rd and final Evolution Charm, which would allow us the opportunity to properly this time use it to reanimate a Sentinel. But you can definitely think at this point in time the game is in your favor and you're going to win as long as you don't make any big misplays. So there you go, a little bit longer game, a little bit some mistakes. I think the start was fantastic and definitely wanted to showcase that, but also I think this gives you kind of an idea of how the deck can perform against something like another deck using black, a deck that is managing to successfully kill off your Vent Sentinels on a regular basis. So there you go, hope you enjoyed it, and definitely if you haven't already, check out the article.